What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 133 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host with a new home, Kyle Roscoe, and we are covering an absolute fantastic card for you guys tonight, which is Friday of the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. 4 grade 1s, 2 grade 2s that we're going to cover tonight, guys. You are not going to want to click off this video. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. We greatly appreciate it. We hope to have a big audience tonight, again, as we cover one of the best cards of the entire year. Some would argue it's only second to the Breeders' Cup. You have 4 grade 1s today, many grade 1s again on Saturday. It's just an absolutely fantastic bit of racing. And the fact that it's moved to the Spa, obviously, we would love to have the mile and a half Belmont, but having something like this at the Spa is always special to us racing fans. So again, everyone, thank you guys all for joining. We greatly appreciate it. Please go down below the video player, hit the like button, and hit the subscribe button if you guys enjoyed the show. We would greatly appreciate it, because not only does it show us that you guys are enjoying the content, but it also pushes these podcasts out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. We had a show covered yesterday with Pacific Horseplayers, guys, covering Wednesday stakes, which on recording this on Tuesday, it's tomorrow. The Belmont Stakes Racing Festival starts tomorrow. So if you guys are playing, which I know you are after this podcast, go check out the one from yesterday covering Wednesday's stakes races with Noah, Ryan, and Jackson. Also, guys, keep on the lookout. One of them already posted, which is the Belmont Stakes preview. Just the Belmont Stakes was covered in that one. It's a 30-minute long podcast. So again, please go view that one after this podcast if you're interested. We also have 2 more tape shows coming your way. And of course, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern with Howard, Pete, and Paul. They're covering the late pick 5 on Belmont Stakes Day. Again, absolutely fantastic sequence. You're not going to want to miss it. So hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you guys can be notified whenever new podcasts come live on the channel. But also, guys, that not only that, but every single podcast that we post here on YouTube is also available in audio form, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor for those. So please go rate, review, and subscribe over there if you're interested. TikTok and Instagram, guys, at Bettin N Boozin Podcast, starting a new series tomorrow on both. So please go follow us over there if you haven't already. The Power Picks, guys, if you haven't got in yet, you still have some time. You have to do it before Thursday at 8 p.m. East, or before Thursday at noon, to get your Belmont Stakes edition of the Power Picks on Saturday. So again, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Again, in the positive ROI for 4.5 years now. Only $4.99 a weekend, which includes this weekend for the Belmont Stakes, price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. We here at the HHH Racing Podcast have you covered with the Power Picks. Again, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. The link is also in the description below. And you can also view previous editions of those aforementioned Power Picks before you buy them, or if you just want to learn more about the podcast, please go to hhhracingpodcast.com. Guys, we're not going to keep you guys waiting tonight. If you guys are new here or you find yourself coming back, bottom right hand side of the screen, both on X and on YouTube, we have the live chat feature. So please, I know you guys have some opinions on these races already, so please put them in the live chat. We would love to read every single one of them. But guys, I will bring on my co-host right now and we will get right into the episode. Of course, the full house is here tonight from the East Coast of New Jersey. Patrick Kunsel, and graduated, but still technically from the Ohio State University, Charlie Freeman. Gentlemen, Patrick, it's that time of year again, baby. Can you feel it in the air?
Yeah, I can. I can't wait for tomorrow's card, let alone this card on Friday. No, yeah, this is we're covering a fun 6 races with a lot of talented horses.
Chuckles, my friend. I mean, look, this is the time of the year where racing really starts kicking off. Obviously, this is the end of the Triple Crown, but it's only the start of the great summer racing, and soon to be up at Saratoga as well. I mean, look, there's a lot of racing coming to the summer. So if you guys are watching this show and only watching for the Belmont Stakes, we do this every single Wednesday. So keep coming back.
Yeah, no, it's I was to say, I just saw Katie's comment. This is good timing for me to come back from my hiatus after going to Europe, getting right back into the swing of things. I certainly didn't come in for a light card, though. Like Pat said, we definitely got to get right back into, mid-season form for me, because we got 6 really good races to get over. Like Pat said, this long stretch of races, I know Howard mentioned it in the recording tape show we just did on the Belmont. I think he said it's like 27 stakes races this weekend for over $11 million. This is an insane stretch of racing that we're going to get to enjoy.
But that's why we are here, my friends. But welcome in, everyone. Cheers to everyone out there. Nectar of the gods, only what's fitting for today's show. But cheers to everyone out there. Hopefully you got a beverage in your hand if you choose to indulge. Katie, of course, is here bright and early, betting and not losing. Katie, I think is what you meant to say. But thank you much, Katie, as always, for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Christopher NG is back again. We betting and winning with Bettin N Boozin. Kyle, always, and a crew, always a pleasure. Let's dive into the best racing event in New York every year, man. See, gives a little bit of Travers run for the money, but of course, this is an absolutely fantastic weekend. Terry Frank is here, of course. Jim Pilars is here. Ed Burke, no socks hat tonight. Ed Burke, got to rock the Bettin N Boozin hat, of course, with the Belmont Stakes polo. And judging by what they got absolutely crapped on by the Tigers yesterday, I will not be partaking. James, my friend. James, haven't seen your name in a while. Thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Colin Quinn. I'm drinking the Trotters Bud Light. I think you meant Miller Lite Tap, but obviously Trotters Bud Light Tap till it's empty this weekend. My friend, let's do it big, guys. First race we are going to talk about on this show is the race number 6 on Friday. It is the first stakes race. It's a grade 2. It's the Bed of Roses Stakes, and it draws a field of 7 here in this one as I bring it up. Sorry, guys, 300,000 going 7 furlongs on the dirt. The longest route they can run, only one turn at the spa. 300,000, like I said, on the line. Big morning line favorite to kick us off here, guys. The number 3, Ways and Means. Basically, you can argue she's a Saratoga specialist at this point. Flavian Pratt, Chad Brown at 6-5. One of my wife's favorite horses, number 2, Scylla, makes a reappearance here. Joel Rosario, Bill Mott at 5-2. And third choice, the number 4, Jody's Pride at 9-2. Guys, bringing up our picks right now. As you can see, 2 of us are going with Ways and Means, but realistically, you can see our picks, guys. Going to start off chalky here. It's 3-2 all the way around. However, Pat, you are going with Scylla over Ways and Means. So being the odd man out, please tell us why we're going to be wrong and you're going to be right.
Yeah, no, listen, Scylla, you look at these PPs, she comes off the layoff, runs in the, Derby City Distaff. They wanted to get a race in her at Keeneland, and something came up. I think she got a fever, so she couldn't run there. And then I thought she ran halfway decent in Distaff, considering what happened. Ended up, bumping with Kopi and kind of on the backside there as they came out of the chute. But still, went on with it. And obviously, Bill Mott's awesome, second off the layoff in graded stakes competition. I mean, he's hitting at 26% over the last 5 years. And in the money, he's like a ridiculous, like 72%. This is obviously stiff competition with Ways and Means. I'm trying to beat her in here. I know she's got all the stats to back herself up and kind of open up her 4-year-old campaign after, a tough run in the Derby City Distaff in a loaded field there. So listen, I'm going to try and beat her, but I think if I could get 5-2 on Scylla, I'll be happy. I don't know what you guys think of her too much. I don't know if she's just way below Ways and Means, but I think I do think on her good day, she can be right there.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue way below Ways and Means, and everyone beat me to the punch as this does start the 2-day all dirt pick 6. I was going to talk about it here once I went, but Ed Burke and our Stephanie, of course, our very astute viewers, beat me to the punch. Charlie, I would argue, she's not way below Ways and Means, but coupled with it being at Saratoga and the trip that I think Ways and Means just is easily going to get here. Look, I played against Ways and Means the last 3 times. I was wrong once and right twice, but this time it just doesn't seem like the time for me.
No, I completely agree. One other thing, I don't know if Pat mentioned it or not, but Scylla drew the 1 hole in that race last time where the rail was just awful at Churchill.
Yeah.
So I think everything pretty much worked against Scylla in that race. That being said, my concerns, because, Kyle, all too well, I'm typically the leader of the Scylla fan club. I think I've picked her every single time we've ever covered her until now, which I think just speaks volumes into like what you were saying, why I just think so much works for Ways and Means rather than I think against Scylla. Look, she loves it at Saratoga. I also think 7 furlongs absolutely works in her favor as opposed to Scylla. I personally like Scylla more at a mile or a mile and a 16th. I just feel like it asks a little much of her at 7. It's a bit short for her, and she really needs to make sure she's close enough. The other concern I have, which I know we haven't even highlighted yet, and it's the reason I have the 1 and 3rd, is there's actually surprisingly not a lot of pace in this race.
Yep.
Which I just think is another thing that's going to make it tough for Scylla. I think on pure ability, it's a 2-horse race between the 2 and the 3. But I just think there's so many things that are working towards Ways and Means that are working against Scylla. Again, Ways and Means loves this track, has gotten this distance down before, gets Flavian again. I think this really sets up nicely. And I think Ways and Means could just sit a perfect trip right off of the 1 and get first jump.
And that's my problem. I'm glad that you hit right on that because my thing, I had Scylla on top originally in this race. I won't lie to everybody. I won't lie to anybody here, but my problem is with Scylla, I don't think she's nearly as fast as the one with Frankie Pennington aboard Irish Maxima. And I don't think she's as fast as Ways and Means. Ways and Means can just sit right off, even if it's not right off, if it's still, 2 lengths back of Irish Maxima. I think Ways and Means gets the jump. And if Ways and Means gets the jump on anybody, you can almost, kiss her goodbye at 7 furlongs. So that's my problem that I ran into trying to pick against her here. So, and this is second off the layoff as well for Ways and Means. We're after a almost buyer top in that last one. And to go to her buyer top, guess where you have to go? Back to her races at Saratoga, where she won both of them last summer in the allowance, which was way too easy for her.
And this weekend, right?
Yep. Yeah. And then the test, where she ended up
the same trip, right, Kyle? You would think in the same trip as the test.
Yeah, I mean, even realistically, she could even sit back like she did, kind of in that allowance race. I'd be fine sitting 2 back. The problem, I mean, the thing is, I don't think anyone's as fast in this race besides the 3 we've mentioned to even be close to the lead in this one. And if Ways and Means just has a clear track, I've actually picked. I mean, she's been cents to the dollar on the last couple times. Frankie Pennington's had this horse in perfect spots, got the lead really easily in all those. Problem is that she's not necessarily facing, Barbara Fritchie horses or, stuff like that anymore. You're up to the big leagues. Same thing that I wanted to touch on with Jody's Pride, because Pat, you have her in 3rd. My problem, I just don't know if she classes up to horses like this. However, at least underneath that, probably what's going to be, 5-1 or something, 9-2, maybe something like that, considering I actually have to turn on the morning line, so that's a good chunk for me, as obviously everyone knows I don't handicap with morning lines to start off, but I just don't know if she classes up necessarily to win a race like this.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I will say, though, I really thought that was a visually impressive performance last time in the Ruffian, and that's kind of why I put her in the mix here. I don't see her on the win end at all, but I definitely can see her hitting the board in here. I just thought that last race, the way Rosario got to the rail with her and that late burst was pretty impressive. But distance, we could question that.
That's correct. Yeah. And going back to 7. Sorry, Chuck, go ahead.
No, obviously, yeah. I mean, I had Jody's Pride as a lone C in case it's one of those races where we always say the pace has to be one way or the other, and then it's the opposite and we're just wrong. I think if there's a meltdown, because I saw somebody in the chat bring it up. I know that, she had that weird race where she lost by a neck to Mystic like an Emery, where she actually was able to sit close enough at 7. But historically, if you look at the majority of her races and her best efforts, like the one last time, it has been from coming off the pace and in a longer distance. Granted, she did have that bullet work at 5 furlongs and 58 flat, so maybe they're trying to get some speed into her, but that was my concern. I wanted to hop into the 1 real quick, Kyle, before you get into the 5, just because we already started to talk about Irish Maxima. I'm curious that neither of you had this 1 in 3rd. I'm surprised I'm alone, just because, again, I know, Kyle, if you want to pull up the pace projector, isn't she just lone speed? Like, I feel like, obviously, Pratt will make sure Ways and Means is close enough. Obviously, I've seen Joel will make sure Scylla, kind of similar in a way, I guess, to what Mike Smith did in the sprint 2-back where he kept Scylla close enough. I don't know if she wants to be quite that close, but, I'm sure, obviously, Scylla and Ways and Means won't leave themselves with too much to do, but I feel like you touched on, Kyle, yes, to an extent, Irish Maxima has gotten away with some easier leads that's allowed her to win, I would argue she's going to get that again here. Now, because of the class-up, I don't think she can win, but
Yeah.
I feel like she'd have to be pretty bad and regress a decent amount to not at least stay on for third.
No, you're completely right. The difference is between 6-1 on Irish Maxima and a horse that I'm going to talk about in the 5, who's 12-1.
That's
Justique, kind of having that same type of trip. I know. Don't say it. I understand what you people are going to say to me. Hey, this horse is Cherie. Of course you have this horse in there, Kyle. I swear to God, it's not that. But look, the 1 Irish Maxima makes a ton of sense for third if the horse can hang on. Especially, we'll get to the next race I talk about. How last year was such a speed favoring track at this meet last year. Irish Maxima should make every single top 3 basically. Justique at 12-1 though. You go back to those late races earlier in the year, 93 and 88 in the carousel. She was pretty far back, but in that optional claiming, she was pretty close up. Granted, at a slower pace. However, that horse, I thought she ran fantastic that day, and I understand she's 5 now, probably just not a Madison type horse. Now comes back. Obviously, ways and means are going to be tough, but if she can get back to that 93, maybe even improve off that 93 earlier in the year at double-digit odds, you could easily see her getting in the money. However, I understand what you're saying about the 1, Charlie, and I completely agree with every point that you brought up there. But guys, we'll keep it moving here. But in race 6, the Better Roses Stakes, grade 2, I'm going 3, 2, 5. Pat's going 2, 3, 4. Charlie's going 3, 2, 1. Guys, moving on here. But first, I want to bring up a new person I haven't seen in the chat. Rob, thanks so much for joining the show, man. What's up, boys? Thanks so much for joining the show, Rob. Greatly appreciate it. As again, we always love to highlight our new viewers, and I will not be highlighting Noah because he's saying mean things in the chat that I will not condone. But either way, guys, look, we move on from that race, guys. Grade 2, who cares about the grade 2? The grade 1 Ogden Phipps is the next race we're going to cover, and we jump all the way to race 9 for that. But the races we're skipping, guys, also in this, that was back-to-back 15-horse fields, if anyone was keeping track there. It's just an absolutely fantastic racing, of course, up at the spa. But race 9, the Ogden Phipps, guys, grade 1, 500,000 going a mile and an eighth for older fillies and mares. Field of 7. It's your normal, older fillies and mares here in this one, of course, minus the Grizzly Bear off her last race where she was a little bit disappointing, and Kenny McPeak's going to give her a little bit of a break. However, the morning line favorite is still, I'm assuming, going to be decently heavy in this race. It's 5-2 right now for Raging Sea. However, I'm assuming she's going to get bet pretty heavily off that last race for Flavian Pratt and Chad Brown. Second choice, the number 5, Candide, Manny Franco, Todd Pletcher at 3-1. And your third choice is Leslie's Rose, Irad Ortiz, Todd Pletcher at 7-2. That's some good old Kentucky Derby pool, Kentucky Oaks pool lore for me and Pat there. Leslie's Rose. Unfortunately, that's what lost us the pool last year. But again, look, we won the pool this year. I don't even think that's been mentioned on a show yet this year, but not a peep from anybody because we destroyed everybody in this, but not a peep from anybody. But it's fine. We won't. I'm not even letting Charlie speak because there's no peeps from anybody.
Oh, I would say if it makes you feel any better, if we're talking about that race, bringing up bad memories, Noah's Lock of the Century Tarifa didn't do us any favors in the competition.
Oh,
yeah.
And then he followed it up strong this year as well. He followed it up strong this year with our pick. Who do we have in the horse? I think the horse ran last.
They're winding everybody up. Can you tell?
That's
they're winding each other up. If you can't tell, but guys, I'm gonna bring up our picks right now, guys. 2 of us are going with the number 7, 9-2 randomized in this race. Charlie, you are going with the number 4, Raging Sea. So I'll let you talk first. Obviously, very deserving morning line favorite off that last race on the La Troyenne. Even though it came up really slow, that was a pretty impressive effort.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I also think randomized ran huge. I really was torn between which one of those 2 to put on top, and I ended up on Raging Sea here. I like, honestly, and I don't know what you guys make of getting back to this distance, but I prefer her. I know she ended up, winning at a mile and 16, but I prefer her with her running style at a mile and an eighth anyway. She's obviously loved it at Saratoga in the past. Obviously did run in this race last year and lost to randomized, but they also, set a pretty slow pace that day that kind of worked in randomized favor. And while I do think randomized gets the lead, I don't think the pace will be quite as, slow as what happened last time. I thought we saw a different side of her as well. Like the fact that, going slightly shorter, that she was only sitting 3 lengths off, I think was just a masterclass by Flavien Pratz that she didn't have too much to do late. And I think if he can work out a similar trip here where, again, because they are going a little longer and the pace should be a little hotter, maybe sits 4 lengths off the lead. I think that would honestly be fine with me. But, that was first race off the Breeders' Cup where we always sort of talk about, first race off that weekend where it can be rough for them. But Raging Sea absolutely looked the part. Sticks with, Flavien Prat aboard. And I think she's the horse to beat. But I also will say you might get a price that's a little too short.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point on this. I think she's obviously, like I said, a very deserving favorite. I've been against her almost every single time that she's ran, and I've been wrong 4 of the last 5 times. I'm going to try it again here, whether that's better, for worse, or for worse. But look, Pat, Raging Sea is definitely deserved of everything that she has in this race.
Oh yeah, for sure she is. But I do think, she's going to need to have a target to run at. And I'm not sure, that going into the 7, I think randomized is going to have, the lead to herself in here. And if she does, she's been pretty courageous, which are well aboard of, being able to wire the fields. And she loves this track. I just think it's all setting up for her to have a big day. She's got that outside post. She's going to have to go early. And Kyle, I mean, I don't know about you, but I just think second off the layoff here, it seems like this race comes at the perfect time for her.
I couldn't agree more with you, my man. I'm going to show the pace projector right now from, of course, our good friends at DRF and Timeform, as they have graciously partnered and sponsored up with the HHH Racing Podcast. So, of course, we greatly appreciate that. I mean, look at the pace projector, guys. I mean, they have Dorth Vader. Dorth Vader's pretty quick, but she's definitely not as quick as randomized is. Then you go back to Leslie's Rose, who does not want to be on the lead necessarily. And Dazzling Move, again, while she wants to be on the lead, I don't think she's nearly as fast as as randomized either. So while I think there's others that want to be towards the front, I don't necessarily think that they're going to be on the lead necessarily. I think I disagree with you, Howard. I think she's way faster than everyone else in this race, and I think she's loose. It's just a matter of, and talking about that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
I was saying, because I know you pat her on the same side, you can finish the thought, but I was going to say, just to slightly push back, I think this is why I was torn between the 2 horses. I do think she'll get the lead. I do think she's fastest, and I agree that she can absolutely get brave and win on the lead. The thing I'm just thinking, though, I mean, like what Leslie's Rose just ran a 6.5 sprint, so obviously she can show speed. I don't know if she'll be on the lead. I don't think Dazzling Move really has any choice but to try to push for the lead, because I don't think she's good enough otherwise. And I think the other one we didn't even highlight is Dorth Vader. If the door didn't get shut on her last time, where she ended up knocking into with Torpedo Anna and got set in the turn, she was at the time trying to clear on the rail and get. I don't know if she would have been right next to randomized, but at the very least was trying to make at least fight for the lead. Again, I think randomized will get the lead, but I think it will be a little more contested than Timeform is suggesting. I think she'll get the lead, but I don't think she'll be as loose as they think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's going to be 4 lengths loose necessarily, as projected by Timeform. However, I just don't think that anyone's really as fast as her, whether they have to go or not. It's just a matter of, again, Dazzling Moves quick, but she was on the lead at 1 1/8 going, 112 flat. I don't think randomized is going to go 112 flat. So again, whether you think that's right or not, I can't see her anywhere but on the lead, at least up by a length and a half, or even 2 to that point. However, again, Raging Sea is easily the horse to beat in this field. However, she's 3 for 5 at Saratoga, 4 for 5 in the money. Where she's gotten the bravest on the lead has been at Saratoga in both normal paces, cold paces, hot paces. It's been everything above. I really, really like randomized in this race, especially at the track she is at. And Penn State Scott, the man who we haven't seen in such a long time.
Oh my God, my rival.
Horse for course, my friends. And even though I'm not normally a horse for course type person, I really think randomized has a huge shot to win on Friday. The only other horses we're going to talk about here, guys, we're going to go through everyone's. We talked about Dorth Vader already. Charlie, you have Tarifa in there. She's ran really nice races. It's just a matter of also whose mic is getting. Sorry, I don't know whose mic.
That's my dog.
Oh, that's Sugar.
Yep.
That's Sugar. We can blame Sugar on that. So
I knew it was going to happen at some point in the episode. But no, yeah, go ahead. I'll talk on Tarifa. Yeah, you just had to know that was going to happen. Tarifa's a very tough one to figure out. It's a horse that, like I was talking about earlier, didn't do Noah and I any favors. Is a horse that has cost me multiple times in horizontals where I just needed Tarifa to come through as a pretty short favorite and not gotten the job done on multiple occasions. But I will say, I thought the effort last time was actually pretty decent. Now, I know it was a weird race where Jin won and, everybody, it was a long shot, but then I believe Jin actually came back and ran a pretty decent second. So maybe that form in that race isn't as bad as we initially thought, which I think is a positive. I also just thought trip-wise, if I'm remembering correctly, Kyle, I don't know if you can hold the replay, I thought Tarifa got studied pretty bad in that race last time out, which kind of made her race weird because at the time I thought she was a little interesting there because I assumed she would be sitting closer, and then after that break, never really had a chance. So I think she absolutely is a possibility. My main concern is, so she did get studied because, she's not a horse that wants to be sitting in the back. But my concern is in that race, obviously, that's not where she wants to be. My issue is she's kind of been one of those that's been over bet in the past, but you'll get a square price here. She is kind of just plateaued, it looks like, as a high 80, low 90, but I absolutely think she can at the very least get a piece. I don't think she's impossible either.
No, and I think she's going to get, she's going to be forwardly placed in this race as the couple of others in here. And if Randomized does not have it, I think Tarifa is going to be one of your first run type horses coming into this race. The only other horse said Howard thinks Leslie's Rose could run a really big race. And I was a big fan of this horse last year. Unfortunately, obviously didn't end up working out for me, but that race coming back, the vagrancy was actually really, really good. Granted, maybe not to the caliber of what's in this race. Oh, again, talking about what she ran against, but they went 22 flat, 44-4 in that race. I mean, pretty quick, not able to get the job done against lesser. However, I don't think she's completely out of it necessarily for your underneath type plays as well. And whether she can win, going a mile and an eighth is to be seen. However, I think if you get over 7-2, it might be a decent enough chance to take a little bit of a chance. I'm going 7-4-3. Pat's going 7-4-1. Charlie's going 4-7-6 in the grade 1 Ogden Phipps, which the ticker's been wrong this whole time. So I do apologize. I forgot to change the name of the race in the ticker. But either way, guys, we're moving on to race number 10, which is the Belmont Gold Cup. This is the 2-mile marathon, $250,000. Again, grade 2, 4-year-olds and up, older males, And as I bring up the Equibase right now, you guys can see pretty decent morning line favorite as he has been the last couple times they've run these types of races. The number 3, limited liability, Frankie Dettori hops up for Shug McGahee again at 2-1. Second choice is the Foreign Invader, flatten the curve at 3-1, and your third choice is the number 5, Anglophile. Shout out to Pat's pick last time at 9-2. As I bring up the picks right now, guys, that's kind of the way I thought it was going to go. We're all 1-3 in some capacity. I have the 8 Grand Sonata in third. You guys have the number 5 Anglophile in third. Look, these races are very tough. At least for me, I find them to be tough. I watched a lot of these races from the number 1, flatten the curve, at least the ones that I could find. And Pat, I'll tell you what, man, this horse could run. Probably he could run as long as he wants. I mean, the race he won at Not 4 back was 2 miles and 5/16. You're almost looking at 2.5 miles there, and still was running on and actually closed up in that race. So as a horse that can run for miles and has tried over every single type of from fern turf to good turf to heavy, he's tried and true across all of them.
Yeah, what Howard said in the chat, whatever that means.
The Google Translate's going wild.
Yeah, right. Listen, flatten the curve, Kyle. You hit on it. These races, watching them, pretty impressive. And gets Hammer Hansen aboard. who's a very popular jockey in Germany. From what I've read, he's probably one of their best top riders. And I think Zarek, the breeding there, all the top horses that this horse has been involved with have run these types of distances. And I just think you look at who this horse is facing. I can't trust limited liability at all. And I know what I'm getting out of the one here watching these replays. So I think there's a chance that this horse might end up going off as the favorite, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, look, limited liability, Charlie, takes money every single time. And there's been some, I mean, I'm not sure, there's been some weird ass rides, man, on this horse the last couple of times. Someone said in the chat, Dettori is an auto toss. I don't know if that should be necessarily the case. However, on this horse, the last couple times, it has been tough sledding for limited liability and probably should have won at least 2 of those last 3. If not, you could argue all 3, but integration was obviously very good in the Red Smith. But Charlie, look, he makes a ton of sense in this race, just a matter of what type of, horse is the one going to be, and can the 3 actually finish off a race?
Yeah, no, I almost put limited liability on top, and then I saw who the jockey was, and that was an easy change. Yeah, Dettori's probably the worst, one of, if not the worst jockeys in America right now. He needs to hang him up, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was terrible on integration. He's cost me a ton of money on limited liability twice. He made the same mistake in 2 different ways. First, in the race 2 back, he decided to send immediately, thinking it was a mile. He forgot there was another half. And then in the Keeneland one, he kind of just abruptly at one point decided to go for it and lost to Utah Beach, who is not on the same planet. But, that's what happens when you give a bad enough ride. That being said, in fairness, I'm not going to act like the one isn't a talented horse. Like you said, Kyle, in the few replays I could find, I've decided to nickname the jockey Hammerhead Shark because I misread his last name as Hammerhead when I first saw it. Yeah, I just think it sounds like a tough name. And I saw when I watched some YouTube comments that I translated from German, a lot of people really like the jockey, so he must be really good. German horse and Howard's thing, I think, translated to like bred for distance. So you have a horse bred for distance with a Hammerhead Shark jockey that's hyped up in Germany, and then you have a jockey in America who everybody hates. So I'm going to trust the one here. But yeah, with the 3, limited liability has the ability. Dettori's been the liability, not the horse. Sorry, I had to make another joke there. But the distance shouldn't be a concern. I know I ran 2 and a 16th at Kentucky Downs, which already plays long, so that won't be a concern. I really do think on paper it's a 2-horse race. I'm curious what Pat has to say about the 5, because I know Anglophile has kind of been his horse, and it's been one that's knocked on the door in the past, but hasn't really shown much. And then last time, against Farbridge, who seemed like a sure thing, only lost by a length and was really impressive. So I'm again curious to hear what he has to say. But yeah, limited liability has the talent, is ultra consistent, just hasn't quite put it all together. Hard to blame the horse, but if this horse runs back to the Nashville Gold Cup race, could absolutely win this race.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Ed Burke, the one thing I will push back on the one not winning going left, ever since they've given this horse a little bit extra distance off of this trainer switch, he's been a completely different horse, honestly, in my opinion. So even though you have to go pretty far back to last year, going left-handed, which again could be a worthwhile kind of conversation. However, he's really, in that race in France, he only lost by 2. So you could argue, I don't look too far into that, but again, it's definitely a good thing to bring up. Yeah, Penn State, Scott, that'll go over well, obviously, from what you just heard Charlie go talk about. But either way, Pat, I'll let you talk about Anglophile, considering that this was a very good pick on your part, even though you actually ended up getting bet down pretty decently based on scratches and everything from last time in the Man of War. Comes back into here as good of a form as he's ever been. And if this is a time to catch him underneath, this is probably a pretty good one.
Yeah. I don't have confidence in him on the win end here at all. But this horse has run consistent this year, and I do appreciate that considering the odds. I really liked him in the Acorn when we covered that, and I thought he ran huge in there. So I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what to expect from him on this day. But I would expect him coming from off the pace, and hopefully just to get him in the money in here. As he's been a very, very consistent horse, making over $1 million at age 5.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of just the same thing with the Grand Sonata. He's run very good races, consistent as can be, always gives the run. It's just a matter of who shows up on the day. Again, I echo everything that Pat just said about Anglophile into the number 8 Grand Sonata, but it really does feel like if the one shows up from Germany and from France, Jeffrey Amster, fantastic longtime fan of the show, said obviously this is a golden ticket to the Melbourne Cup, so flatten the curve, ships over here from Germany, wins here. Obviously look for him in the Melbourne Cup, but really a race between the number 1 flatten the curve and the number 3 limited liability in my eyes. I'm going 1-3-8. Pat's going 1-3-5. Charlie's also going 1-3-5. Guys, we made it halfway through, everybody, as we continue on, but don't worry, we only have 3 grade 1s left to cover, guys, so don't worry about it. We're going to keep going. We have race 11 next, guys. It's the DK Horse Acorn Stakes, 500,000 going a mile and 1/8 for 3-year-old fillies. Draws, of course, the Gorilla, the Monster, everything in between. The number 2, Good Cheer. You'll see her back here. Luis Saez, Brad Cox, 1-2 on the morning line. The number 4, a lot of people like her. Shred the Gnar, Jose Ortiz or Brian Lynch at 3-1. And your next choice is not until 10-1, shared between the number 3, Lacara, and the number 5, Bless the Broken. Guys, going to show our picks on the screen right now. Wait a second. This guy, I swear to God. All right, Chuckles. Put up or shut up time, my friend. Shred the Gnar over Good Cheer. You are going to be either really right and stuff us all in a locker, or you're going to kind of look like an idiot, realistically speaking. But hey, I like the choice. I like going against her, I guess, especially against the 1-2 favorite. What'd you like most about the number 4, Shred the Gnar?
Yeah, well, for starters, I'll push back and would argue it looked like more of an idiot for someone who, people like Noah, for example, behind the scenes know I've hyped up Shred the Gnar a lot and have loved this horse. And then I didn't have the stones to pick her to instead go with a 1-2 horse. It's going to go off at, probably 1-5 or 2-5. So I'd rather go down swinging. And besides, you guys know, like Big Truz, I love my Flying Dutchman horses for Brian Lynch anyway. But yeah, no, Shred the Gnar is a horse that I have been on for a very long time. I was sort of a sicko when we were handicapping all the races for Kentucky Derby weekend, and I had started that race on Monday when that race went off Friday. And as soon as I saw Shred the Gnar before the morning lines were even out, or I knew that this horse would get hammered down, I already had said that was my best bet of that entire day. I remembered watching her race at Gulfstream on debut. Magnolia Prime just freaked that day, and she couldn't quite get it done. But to debut again, is Mr. Gulfstream, 110-5 for 6 furlongs is incredibly impressive. So to run at that and lose by neck is fine. Then came back against a decent field with a horse like Donor Advisor, came back to win and just acted like they were nothing. And then came back after that and ran against Chasson, who I forget who that horse is related to, but it's a sibling to some other successful horse, because I know that one took a ton of money. And again, Shred the Gnar, despite going off at less than even money, there were other contenders in that field that were supposed to be decent, and she made all of them honestly look like clavers. I mean, she was setting pretty decent fractions, had horses right off of her, and then just turned for home and flew away. It looked like she was running against absolutely nothing. So I'm going to take a chance on her. I love her in the spot. Has 2 bullet works, actually has 3 bullet works since that race, so it looks like she's working forwardly here. Look, Good Cheer did nothing wrong. When we covered that race, I talked about how a lot of people were trying to get cute, and it kind of reminded, thank you, idiomatic, of prospect fatigue is the way I compared it with like the NFL draft, where everybody knew Good Cheer was the pick in the Oaks, but everybody was trying to act, wise guy and try to talk themselves out of it. And I still landed on her there, and I didn't want to get cute, and I don't think she did anything wrong. The problem is, I don't think that race was anywhere near as good as we thought. A lot of the major contenders that we all drafted in our thing, none of them really did any running in that race. I think the fact that Drexel Hill and Bless the Broken, no disrespect to them, but that they ran second and third kind of speaks volumes to the quality of what that Oaks race may have been. Her figures have steadily improved, and I guess that she's push button, and she could absolutely win here, but I just think there's too many questions, and I don't feel safe enough with her to take 1-2. And I just think Shred the Gnar, as a buyer, that Good Cheer hasn't matched yet. And to me, I just saw a side of her where she's less experienced. And if she builds off that again, I don't see why she couldn't pull off the upset.
I have 2 problems, Pat, with, again, like I said, I respect taking the shot against a horse like this, especially 1-2 at least. My 2 questions are, 1, what is her winning way around the track in this race? And 2, I don't even know if you're going to get value on her in a race like this to beat a horse like Good Cheer. I mean, she could be. I wouldn't be surprised if she's like 5-2.
Oh, she's the clear cut
Because of how
choice, right?
much freaking buzz there is on her. I could see like 1-2, 5-2, and everyone else really in this race, which again is the way this race shapes up. However, I just don't know if you're getting enough value necessarily with the 4 to take. And obviously, I wouldn't take a win bet at 1-2 on Good Cheer. But again, I don't know if I take a bet on 5-2 on a horse like Shred the Nard to beat Good Cheer. Shred the Nard could win, but again, it's going to be a hard way around the track for her, at least harder than what she's had to face so far.
For sure. And she's going to have to deal with Lacar to her inside, who is going to go, as well as, they're saying the 6, who's been pretty fast. I don't know. I think, listen, I've been trying to beat Good Cheer since day one. She's stuck me in a locker in all 7 of her races. I'll be quite honest with you. But this is not a race I'm going to try and beat her in. I feel like she can, just be as tactical as ever as she always has been. And I think this is one of those kind of races where this just sets her up for a beautiful summer in a beautiful town in upstate New York.
Yeah, I honestly, I disagree. Like I said, there's not too much we can say about Good Cheer, right? I mean, we know exactly what she is. She could honestly even be better than what she's shown so far. But Scottish Lassie is not slow. I don't think she's going to have the lead, but she's at least not slow early. Lacara, there's only one way for this horse to go, and it's an absolute dead send. Obviously, you have Shred the Gnar. Bless the Broken's going to run from the clouds. And then this horse, Look Forward, who's coming from 7 furlongs.
Yeah.
It's running in 21-4 and 44 flat. This horse is going to have to go for the lead, you'd imagine. And if those two are going to go for the lead, that's my only point, is I don't know if Shred the Gnar is going to have that way around the track. However,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, however, she did show she was able to rate a little bit in her maiden race, but that's not necessarily what she's been best at, especially going these longer types of distances.
No, and I think that's fair. But my 2 pushbacks would be, one, in my opinion, from watching Good Cheer, and again, as someone who has never picked against her until now, I don't think you can outclose her. I know she's not a closer. I know she's a stalker, but I just think with how push button she is, I think if you're behind Good Cheer, you don't have a chance. So I think you need to be forwardly placed. As you touch on, which I was about to touch on, Shred the Gnar on debut was happy to stalk. And in both of her races where she won on the lead after, if you watch the replays, she doesn't look like one that needs the lead. She just naturally is fast enough and was so much better than what she ran against that she was just able to get to the lead and wire them. Yeah. If you watch the replay and saw Louis was sending as hard as he could and really trying to ask the horse to get out and, was maybe up by a neck the whole way and then went on to win by a length and had to gut it out, I'd be like, you know what, you're right. With horses that I think Lacar is fast, I think the 6 is faster for sure. I think Scottish Lassie will show speed, but I don't think Scottish Lassie is actually as fast as her. I think Shred the Gnar is probably the 3rd fastest horse in this race, but Scottish Lassie with the rail will have to probably end up sending.
I think the pace pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Shred the Gnar is a little bit faster, but I think that's pretty fair. I think Scottish Lassie will have to send harder just because she drew the rail. But again, I think Shred the Gnar can sit a stalking trip. Will absolutely get the jump on Good Cheer. And look, I don't think Good Cheer's done anything wrong. It would not surprise me at all that Good Cheer would win. And I also hear you with the price thing. I will push a little bit back on that also. I think Bless the Broken is going to take a ton of money just because the horse ran decent and because of the story. A lot of people like that horse, and I think Bless the Broken will take enough money that I think Bless the Broken will end up being a clear third or fourth choice pass. I think Lacar will end up taking a good amount of money because even though she didn't fire, she was supposed to. So I think Shred the Gnar, I think I will actually get every bit of that 3-1, and maybe I don't. But again, I would rather find out at 3-1 on Shred the Gnar than 1-5 on Good Cheer, just because I don't think she is that much better than Shred the Gnar yet. And I could be wrong, but again, the other thing that again I have to bring up again is just the fact that she's so much less experienced. Shred the Gnar, we've only seen 3 efforts from her. I don't think it's out of the possibility that she pops a 3-buyer figure, and if she does, I mean, we haven't seen that from Good Cheer yet in 7 starts.
No, and that's completely fair. And it's just a matter of, again, there's a couple other chalky races in here as well. So if you can beat Good Cheer here, that will definitely upgrade your pick 5 by.
And I will acknowledge, obviously, Louis is staying on Good Cheer, so which one he thinks. But I also don't think there's any world he's hopping off the horse who's 7 for 7.
Say, I don't think that's happening by any chance.
Yeah,
but
agree.
Again,
if that happened, then we would really know something's up.
Well, then someone knows something. But either way, I have Blessed the Broken. Charlie already brought her up. Her in the Bourbonnette Oaks was actually one of my better picks of the year, still to this day, even though she was only 6.5-1. Again, horse that had no business being anywhere near the synthetic. Obviously, got a little bit of Oaks fever. but ran super well and then came back and ran really well in the Oaks, granted with a very hot pace in front of her, but still ran very well. Now comes back into this spot. If the pace does end up heating up with Shredlanar, Lakara, and Look Forward, I think Blesterbroken easily has a chance to clunk up for, there's your Howard of the day, clunk up for Blesterbroken to get somewhere in your either even superfectas or even trifectas for Blesterbroken. Pat, I'll just talk really quick about Lakara, then we'll move on because we got 2 more races to cover after this, and they're pretty good in their own right. But like I said, Lakara is one way to go all the way to the lead. And if the track does actually play speed favoring, kind of like it did last year, as we saw, pay attention to your earlier cards being Wednesday and Thursday. Lakara could sit there, and she's talented enough to get in the money in this race, but with all of the pace signed on in here, it's going to be a tough way around the track for her, at least in my opinion. I'm going 2-4-5, Pat's going 2-4-3, and Charlie's going 4-2-5. Guys, 2 more races here to cover for Friday on Belmont Stakes Festival weekend. If you guys, again, are enjoying the content, please go down below the video player, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it, because we don't only do this on the big weeks like the Triple Crown weekend. We are here every single week on the HHH Racing Podcast, handicapping different cards for everyone out there. So please, again, if you are enjoying it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you guys don't miss any future podcasts. But I agree with Trish. Trish, shout out to you. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, one of our longest time supporters. We greatly appreciate it. Good Cheers, just too good and hot now. I would completely agree with that. And Felipe, my friend, best chat in the game. Winners are given out every episode. So let's hit that like button. Felipe, my friend, thanks so much for joining the show. Shout out to the California boys in the chat. And Dewey fan, I agree with you, Dewey. Similar points before the Oaks and Good Cheer 1. I don't think there's any arguing with that. Dewey, thanks so much again for joining. Greatly appreciate it, guys. We're going to move on to race number 12, and that starts the back-to-back long turf races, or sorry, not long, but back-to-back turf races to end the card. And of course, guys, they are both grade 1s. This one is the grade 1 New York Stakes presented by, I can't say that name, considering what they did to Arlington. Grade 1, 750,000 mile and 3/16, of course, on the turf. The rail is at 18 feet, draws a field of 8, and my true love is drawn all the way to the outside. The number 8, She Feels Pretty, Johnny V. Sharitovo at 3-5, just super good right now. Give me another. The second choice draws the 3, Jose Ortiz Graham Motion at 7-2, and your third choice is Belleza instead of a Y, Belleza for Flavian Pratt and Miguel Clement at 8-1. Guys, bringing up our picks right now. And we had one before, and look at this guy.
This one is
Patrick mother effing Consul. Number 5, Edict 15-1, Manny Franco, David Donk. Pat, it's your turn to either look super smart or super dumb. What is your pick? What is your thinking with the number 5 Edict?
You know, I'm hoping that we get and I'm going to get the year wrong. I want to say 2021 New York Stake that we had down at Belmont Park, where market segmentation went wire to wire on More Like Goddess. How about that one? That's what we're going to get with Edict in this spot. Listen, I'm going out on the beaten path here, but I do honestly think that Edict is going to be the lone speed. I think she is going to have it her way on the front end. The Bogey, she did not run bad at all and was 27-1. Let's be honest, she was not supposed to win in that spot, but did progress pretty well. Was a fast pace, took the lead at the top of the stretch. She was able to get the lead pretty easily, that was a weird race. Kyle, I know you're going to talk about dynamic pricing a little bit later on. But I thought she ran fine in there, and I think there's more for improvement here. I mean, she was running in good races, prior to coming over to the States. At the end of the day, going to have to just send Manny and hope for the best and see if you have horse. But guys, She Feels Pretty. She needs a pace in here, and I don't know if she's going to get it.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, Charlie, to you, that's completely fair. I just think she's a lot better than a lot of these horses in this field. And again, the 5 could get loose. Like I said, you've seen it before. Pat dug deep for that one earlier. But look, she's going to most likely be loose in this race, but she feels pretty. The one pushback I will have, though, is I don't necessarily think she needs a pace necessarily, Charlie. I mean, she sat really close. And if she sits that close again, sitting somewhere just, second flight, I mean, realistically, unless someone improves in here, this race is over.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Again, not trying to connect it to the last race, but to me, the fact that the Good Cheer, for example, is 1-2, and then She Feels Pretty is 3-5 in this spot. I never will let myself bet any win bet on a horse that's not at least 4-5, but I think 3-5 is value in this race. I think She Feels Pretty lays over this field, and I don't think it's going to be close. I think she's going to romp again. When she won I know she only won by 2 and change last time and the time before, but honestly, she had a weird bobble too back, and then the last one, she sort of just kicked clear and then was in hand. She didn't actually really get asked for her absolute best in that race and galloped out just fine. I think when we saw her romp by 6 in Keeneland, we got to see what happens when she's truly asked for her absolute best. I understand her one time at Saratoga was one of the few times she's been defeated, and it was a disappointing and weird loss, but I have no concerns about her. I think she's the most tactical horse, not fastest, like most tactical, like versatile. She can sit wherever she wants. If you look in most of her starts, actually, she's been 4th or closer. She's been within 2 lengths. I have a feeling, honestly, she might just sit 2nd or 3rd and be, pretty close behind this 5, and then it's just going to roll by and, blow by the 5, and then some of these other closers will pass the 5 as well, and you'll end up getting She Feels Pretty over one of these other prices. Now, moving into the 3, unless you wanted to add anything else, Kyle.
No.
I think Give Me Another is a really impressive and interesting horse. Obviously, was undefeated in Australia and is fairly lightly raced for a 5-year-old, only having 9 career starts. Her 2 seconds, I think, are nothing to be embarrassed or worried about. Lost by 3/4 of a length to Saffron Moon, and then last time obviously lost to She Feels Pretty and then Exacta that I gave out and basically thought was a guarantee to hit and did. I think the distance will obviously be the question on the slight stretch out, but I think it'll allow her to be a little more tactical, which will help. And I think she makes a pretty good amount of sense to finish with this pace scenario as, a stone cold exacta like last time. Would not be surprised at all if this is just 8-3 again. I don't know what numbers they were last time, but being the same 2. And then I'll let you guys talk about others. I'm surprised everybody had the 6 because that was my sneaky one I wanted to speak on, but obviously that's not that creative.
Yeah, Howard already hit on. That's South Africa, Charlie. I mean, it's come on, it's not that hard to do. Come on, man, South Africa. But either way, no. Look, and I actually don't have her anywhere. Pat, you don't either. So that's obviously a very interesting thing, in its own right. But she's talented, but she's the one to me that might need a little bit of pace running in front of her, at least on the win end. However, I don't think she's going to get it in here, and that's my problem, guys, is that this really comes off as a pretty chalky sequence, which is why I'm trying to find prices underneath. And Baeza is the one for me in here. You guys have her both in 3rd. That last race in the Shepherd's Bay was actually, I thought, very, very impressive, especially first time off of that pretty decent layoff for obviously the late Christophe Clement, now Miguel Clement. I thought that was really visually impressive effort. She did dive to the rail, got a really nice trip, but to do that off of the layoff, and they went 52-3 and 118-4 in that race, and still ended up losing on the front end. So, Flavien Prat obviously hops aboard. You get that jockey upgrade as well. The Galileo mare, this horse wants to run for ever and ever. So my own 3/16, obviously the win in a mile and 3 last time should be the thing where it's no concern. I really do think, however, she could be, this could be chalky. However, if you're playing exactas to try and make money with the chalk, because you can't really go good cheer into She Feels Pretty, I think Baeza is a very good candidate for underneath play. And obviously, Pat, Charlie, you guys think so as well.
Yeah, no, I think, and this horse, I'm completely blanking, so I don't want to even guess. But she worked with a pretty highly regarded Clement horse last weekend over the Oklahoma turf, and worked fairly well. So yeah, I think all systems go here, and this horse is just going to get better with more starts.
And God forbid if I don't make money on this horse, this might be the old exacta and then insanity reverse exacta, because if this horse finishes over She Feels Pretty and I get grayoshed again, I swear to God, I'm gonna lose my mind. But either way, I have Beach Bomb in third, guys, and I completely understand why you guys don't. Basically had the entirety of the way around the track last time and still ended up losing, but I've been pretty high on Beach Bomb for a long time. I think this horse will want to run forever, and the fact that this actually is a cutback for Beach Bomb, getting a little bit of relief there, I think could honestly help this horse. And if there is no really pace up front, Beach Bomb could at least hang on for anywhere underneath, maybe trifectas, maybe even exactas, but I'm thinking more trifecta, for Beach Bomb, as I don't think she's as talented as others in this field. But either way, guys, that's kind of,
I would say only other one I think we should just touch on, because I was torn and I ended up putting the 6th and 3rd just because I thought the horse got a terrible ride and ran into so much trouble and still got it done. But I think Forever After All is the one wild card in this race. Now, I'm not saying Forever After All can win. I don't think she can. But if you looked at her, efforts, she kind of just plateaued as like an 89, 90 horse who ran at that, lower, graded stakes level, and kind of that's just what her ceiling is. And she would either win by a nose or lose by a nose, and that was just it. And then last time she just popped a 97 out of the blue and won by 9 lengths for fun. And I think the question with her is, was that because of the, yielding turf that she hadn't been on before? And then when she got that weird surface, it welcomed a new side of her. That being said, I know, Paul's going to hate me for bringing up weather, but I know somebody said earlier that we might get some rain. So that if the track is in conditions, I just think it's at least something to highlight, because if that does happen, that could activate Forever After All a little bit more. Again, I'm very hesitant with her, but I just think with that 97 effort, I mean, that fits in the spot. And if we get the conditions, I just think we had to at least highlight that horse.
No, I mean, absolutely. And the rain looks very light. I'll do my 5-second spiel. Rain looks very light, will not affect anything. That's my Paul Halloran weather speech, at least from what I see so far. But Forever After All, absolutely. I have no idea where the heck that came from.
Yeah, I don't either.
Stuffed me in a locker. Haha, Keeneland. I know Keeneland, my favorite tracks.
Those turf pick that was another one I hit with that horse, so I enjoyed that one.
I'm gonna freaking shove my face in a wall. That's the way I felt after the Keeneland meet this spring. But again, guys, while there might not be too much value on top, at least for me, in a lot of these races, I feel like you're going to see a lot of whether they get beat or just beat, something like that. I feel like you're gonna get some prices underneath. And for me in this race, it is the number 6 Belleza underneath. She feels pretty. But in the New York, guys, I'm going 8, 6, 7. Pat's going out on the limb, going 5, 8, 6. Charlie's going 8, 3, 6. Guys, last race we are going to cover here to close out this fantastic card on Friday. It is the Grade 1 Just a Game Stakes. Draws a full field of 11, going 1 mile on the inner turf, and it is the rematch of the Jenny Wiley between the number 8 Excellent Truth and the number 9 Choiza. And in bringing up the picks right now, 2 of us are going with Excellent Truth. Charlie, I figured you were going to yell at me again, going against our brotherhood of Choiza last time. You are sticking, however, with Luis Saez and Simon Crisford at 4-1. Excellent Truth is your morning line favorite, although a decently soft one in terms of this card at 5-2. And your third choice is the number 5 Kehoe Beach at 9-2 for Wesley Ward, who, Charlie, I figured you'd have that horse in there. Just, of course, being a Wesley Ward and all. I obviously have my love, as you'll see later. But, Charlie, I'll let you go first. Tell us why we're wrong. Why is Choiza going to win again?
Yeah, I just think it's going to work out the right trip again. Keeps Luis Saez aboard. Now, look, I'm going to acknowledge last time I understand that Excellent Truth was rolling late. I understand there was the controversy. Bias aside, even though, yes, it made me a significant amount of money, I still don't think the horse should have been taken down. I thought the effort was incredibly impressive. Again, as the same reasons when I hyped her up the first time, she never should have been the price that she was. The same horse who defeated Cinderella's Dream overseas. I just thought got a great trip. I think is going to work out a very similar trip in this race. I don't think there's a crazy amount of pace in here. Obviously, Kehoe Beach is going to be forward. Special Juan is going to be forward. But outside of that, there's not too much speed that I'm worried about. I just think the 9 is going to get the jump on the 8 again. And again, I understand Excellent Truth ran into a little bit of trouble and was kind of shut off and then was rolling late. But now they're also cutting back to a mile, which I think is just going to be a little tougher on Excellent Truth to have to try to get there in time with even less distance. And I think works in favor of the 9. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm sticking with this horse. It's really hard to pass Louis in the stretch. The 9's going to have the jump on Excellent Truth. You're going to get more square price because people are going to, watch the replay and say the 9 or the 8 should have won, and they're going to say that it's Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt versus an overseas trainer and Luis. And even though Luis should be getting more respect, I don't think it's going to have, transferred over quite yet as much respect as he deserves for how on fire he's basically been since he had the scary injury. But yeah, I'm not getting away from this 9 now. I'm going to stick with her.
Yeah, and look, she might have that same exact trip, Charlie. The problem is, in my eyes, Pat, I think there is going to be a little bit more pace in here than there was in the Jenny Wiley. Kehoe Beach obviously is back in this race, but Special Juan is a horse that scratched actually earlier at a race we were going to cover at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby weekend that, Charlie, I know you and I really liked in that race, and she's not slow. I don't think she wants the lead necessarily, which according to time form she does, but I don't think she's necessarily going to be too slow. Do Gooder is not slow at all. I think that horse is probably going to want to go to the lead. So I think there might just be a little bit more pace signed on, which in my eyes doesn't necessarily hurt Shawazia. Excuse me, Howard. That's how I say it. Shawazia. However, I just think it's going to help a horse like the number 8, Excellent Truth. And if Shawazia got the perfect trip last time, Excellent Truth might just have what she needs, Pat, to be in front of her, be able to win this version of a very, very nice race.
Yeah. And listen, I know we love watching replays and stuff like that, but Shwayze and Charlie, a little pushback here. That horse got a dream trip in that race. And Excellent Truth, just, first start for Chad, just looked ultra talented. And listen, at the end of the day, regardless of what you think, the result was, if it should have, stood or not, I think this horse is going to improve again. And there's a good point in the chat. The 3 horse suggested that horse could be the rabbit for this horse. And if that's the case, watch out. But yeah, no, I think this horse is sitting on a big race in here. And Kyle, I don't know about you, but I would love to take 5-2 and put a nice win bet on her.
And honestly, dude, I think you might get that 5. This race is really stout in terms of older fillies and mares on the turf. Look, this is the thing where we always say it every year. Chad Brown's going to unveil some horses that fit this exact profile. They're going to run Keeneland. They're going to run the 100 buyer or whatever, and they're going to be absolutely set up for Saratoga in the summer. I think we're going to get to one in a sec, I believe, or if it's not, it's tomorrow. That being Al Jafara, who ran on Keeneland. Excellent Truth, I think, is leading that pack. And if Segesta is that rabbit, as we've aforementioned, I don't even think she's the only speed in this race. Like I said, I don't think it hurts Shwazia. I think it just helps Excellent Truth. And if she gets the pace set up, I think she's going to get. This is going to be a very heavy play for me. And if 5-2 comes along, might be the old irresponsible wager of the week on Excellent Truth. However, again, Charlie, look, I loved her last time, and I completely respect everything you said on her. Like, it's just a matter of, I just think she might be a little bit outdone in terms of pace when Excellent Truth comes running. But again, I hate to jump off the bandwagon with you, but I had to do it this time. I'm going to talk about her last. I'll get to your guys' horses in here first. A Lilac Rolla, which is another Resolute in here. Patrick, you have in second Junior Alvarado, Bill Mott, another shipper coming over. Obviously, you love to see these foreign shippers come over, create a lot of competition. Previously trained by Patrick Toomey, now trained by Bill Mott off the layoff here. You like her to get a little bit of a piece.
Yeah, she's pretty classy, right? Has been in some pretty tough races. Has faced
second in 1,000 guineas, no? Right?
Yeah. Faced Porta Fortuna last out.
Yep.
Seems to be tactical. So I don't know, pace wise, it doesn't need to be too fast in here. But no, listen, at the end of the day, the toughest thing is going to be the long layoff in here. I'm just not sure, if she'll be able to withstand that and it being a tough field. But I do think there's a lot here, and we should see her throughout the summer in Saratoga. And the one thing I want to bring up is this feels like it's the quote unquote prep for the Diana, a grade 1 into a grade 1. Who's gonna be the futures? Who's got the best future odds coming out of this race into the Diana?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, it's definitely one of the most competitive divisions right now, considering what we've seen. Dewey fan, I'll talk about Simply in Front just because you brought her up. The distaff ran really well in the distaff turf mile last time. Pin up Betty, who ran second, you just mentioned, came back to obviously run very well in the Mint Julep this past weekend, this past weekend at Churchill Downs. So definitely flatters the form. However, I just don't know if she's as fast enough as a lot of these other horses, at least for the win end. However, she does improve off that last race. Granted, and that was first time off the layoff. Second time off the layoff, I think she's definitely at least worth in your exotics at, well above double-digit odds. Win end might be a little bit of a stretch for her, but underneath, I think you definitely could have a really good one there with the number 4 Simply in Front. Charlie, I'll let you talk about Kehoe Beach, and then I will talk about dynamic pricing, and we'll move on to best bets. Kehoe Beach last time out got a really nice, easy lead. Not easy lead, I guess, necessarily, considering she went 22-4, but almost 47. Just couldn't get the job done. However, of course, if she has that same type of lead, she could run Brave again. I just don't know if she will.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but she's working really forwardly in the mornings, which is something I'm keen in on because we talk about this with Wesley Ward horses. They're always supposed to be cranked, so it's more so concern if they're not, which I like. Also gets a massive jockey upgrade to Irad Ortiz, which should certainly help. That was also first race off a pretty decent layoff. Honestly, even though I really needed the 9 in that race, Kehoe Beach should have won that race. Just the ride was, again, interesting. But I thought Kehoe Beach for sure, it kept the rail, would have turned for home and won that race. Again, thankful it didn't turn out that way. But I'm stunned that I'm the only one to have this horse in the money. And this is not the Wesley Ward bias at all. Genuinely, this is a horse who was first off a layoff, ran her you-know-what off, re-rallied after it looked like she was going to fade down the stretch, now gets the slight cutback as well. And I think will be either on or just off the lead. And I think she absolutely can and will get Brave here. I mean, you look at her race when she had a mile flat at Keeneland, she got Brave. And then she just, after running 22 and change in the quarter, didn't just win. She won going away. And I understand it was an allowance, but the point is it was still decent fractions. You look at the Churchill race and, was able to still win going away there. And again, I'm not much of a speed horse guy myself, but I do like when they can win and not just hang on, but they win going away. And I think that could have happened last time. Again, it's also rare that you see when they kind of give up the lead that they actually get brave enough to fight back and not just fade back into the abyss. So I think Kehoe Beach is very interesting. My 2 A's, I know we're not doing ABC, but because I hear you guys are the 8-9, I really do think it's one of those two. But my only B was the 5. I think Kehoe Beach is really, really interesting here. And real quick, Kyle, before you jump into dynamic pricing, I just wanted to shout out Special One. I think it's too big of a step up, but I do just want to say, because it's Brendan Walsh, that's just interesting to me. Because Brendan Walsh is not the kind of guy who typically sends his horses into these kind of spots if he doesn't think they at least have a chance. And I'm not saying at all it's the same horse or kind of thing, but I feel like it's hard not to compare this to kind of like where Gosker ran in the Preakness. And I get that Gosker won the prep to go into it, but still, easily could have chose to skip that race, but ran anyway and, ran his heart out and nearly won. So I think Special One is at least one to look at. I for a piece at the very least at double digits.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you and I loved her in that race that she scratched out of at Churchill on Derby weekend.
Yeah, what was that? Is that the one that Sacred Wish is coming out of, I think?
Yes, I believe so. So, yeah, you and I liked her above Sacred Wish. Just a matter of, again, might be a little bit too big of a step up. It was the
distaff turf mile. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. So it might be a little bit of a big step up now off a little bit of a layoff. This probably was always the plan. I think they just wanted to have that race in her beforehand. So that's my, slight concern with her. Can she be ready? Absolutely. She's working like she's ready. It's just a matter of, can she class up to other horses in this race? Guys, last horse we'll talk about, then we'll move on to best bets, is a horse that's near and dear to my heart. I'm pulling a kind of a Charlie here with dynamic pricing. Last time out in the Bogey, Pat talked about how Edict ran in the Bogey last time. Dynamic pricing ran unbelievably huge off the layoff. And I'm going to show the last bit of that race with a horse named Rakia, who I've been really big on in the past. Floated out at the top of the stretch and almost took the I turn now, good luck everybody else. This was pretty much that. Look at Rakia out here on the 4, just getting out completely. Dynamic pricing has to swing probably not only parking lot wide, probably like, I don't know, Manhattan Island wide, considering at Aqueduct, and she is flying here down the stretch. Granted, didn't really even get up too much pace set up to run into. She's just very, very good, and if she's getting better when she's 4, I definitely want a piece of her with a race that's going to have a little bit of pace to run into. And Pat's edict right there is the number 3 on the inside, just ended up losing that race. If dynamic pricing is coming and flying at double digits, I want to have her underneath in my exactas, and probably will play an exacta of Excellent Truth over dynamic pricing coming off of that last race. And if she can improve to a mid 90s, high 90s buyer, keep an eye out for her as we get through the summer at Saratoga. I'm going 8-1-9. Pat's going 8-7-9. Charlie's going 9-8-5. Guys, moving on to best bets here. Pat, you'll go first. Win bet on the number 2 Scylla in race number 6, and in race 10 a double 1 with 2. That of course is the Belmont Gold Cup. Flatten the curve with Good Cheer.
Yeah, I'm going to take a shot with Scylla in the Beto Roses. Listen, I know I'm going against ways and means in there, but I just think she's primed, for her coming out party. She's been in a lot of big races and just hasn't really able to, break through. I'm hoping I can get her in this spot on Friday to win, that grade 1. And then I'm going to go with a double. It's probably going to be a little bit chalky. I'm hoping to get, 5-1-ish. It's going to be flatten the curve into Good Cheer. I'm hoping flatten the curve's the second option or the second alternative in that race to limited liability. But it was a fun sequence to cover, guys. And I cannot wait for tomorrow and then just the next 5 days. I think Kyle may be muted.
No worries at all. I'm changing Charlie's picks right now with the best bets. But either way, Pat, good luck with your best bets. Look, you know how much I agree with you in some of those races. Of course, if Scylla wins, you'll hopefully get paid with the heavy favorite in ways and means in that race. Charlie, I'm putting yours up on the screen one in a second here. Sorry, I forgot to do it at the start of the show, as everyone knows.
It's all good. I can go into them. Yeah.
Race number 11, double 4/8. That is, of course, is Shred the Gnar, hoping to beat Good Cheer in that race, and singling the number 8 in that She Feels Pretty. So again, with the negation of Good Cheer, hopefully you should get paid on that one. You can even play it as a pick 3 with your win bet at race number 13 on the number 9 Schwazia.
Yeah, and I would probably mix in some sort of pick 3 for sure. Yeah, I won't talk about the 9 because that's the race we just covered, and I know we went over. So again, Shred the Gnar, I talked extensively at length about why I like her. And again, Kyle, what you pointed out for me at the end of the day, it's value. I think She Feels Pretty is the most likely winner of the sequence we covered, and I haven't gone through every single race of that day yet, but wouldn't surprise me if I have her as my most likely winner of the entire day. So if I can find a way to actually create value with her, and I know some people in the chat had mentioned trying to find prices to use underneath her and exactas, which is certainly possible, but from what we talked about, I mainly chalked out for the horses I had underneath her. So I just think this is the best way to create value, given that, like you said, it's probably going to be a lot of the money going into Good Cheer, into She Feels Pretty. If I can beat her with Shred the Gnar, I think I can create some decent value. And then you already talked about how much I like the 9, but yeah, definitely would play some sort of pick 3 there, and then probably hedge to some extent as well with the 8 on a smaller pick 3. Excellent. No. But I do like the 9 there a lot.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty of way you can do it. The fact that you feel so strongly about the other 2, you can play, some decent backups and whatever into horses in a much more wide open race than the 2 that you like your horses in. So good luck, Charlie, with your best bets, guys. I pretty much played my hand as we were talking about it during the show. Race number 9, win on the number 7 randomized. I really, really like her in that race, especially back at the spa. Getting anywhere close to 5-1 would be just enough for me to take a shot. Would not play her at anything less than 4-1 or 9-2. I think that would be a little too short for me in such a wide open race. However, randomized is my top pick in there. In race number 13, I talked about the irresponsible wager of the week. If that horse is 5-2 on the number 8, Excellent Truth. And I talked about dynamic pricing at length as well. And exacta 8/1 to hopefully create a little bit of value with Excellent Truth to cap off my Friday at Saratoga. And to everyone out there, thank you guys all so much for watching. Like I said, can't do this show without you guys. So greatly appreciate it. We had a fantastic audience all night long. Lots of new people as well. Rob, shout out to you. Some good thoughts here for sure. Heading to Saratoga on Sunday. Too many people at the Belmont last year. I could only imagine how that feels. But either way, guys, good luck. There's a ton of different betting opportunities to go through. Talked about it. The 2-day all dirt pick 6, the 2-day all turf pick 5, the 2-day pick 4, which goes across Thursday with the poker and Friday's first 2 races. Doubles. They actually have an Epsom Derby Belmont Stakes double as well. I saw a Dewey fan bring that up in the chat. We will not cover the Epsom Derby. However, maybe stay tuned for a little bit of international racing with Davy Lane, maybe with the Epsom Derby as well. But best of luck to everyone out there. Ryan, thanks so much for joining the show. Another new face out there. I saw your comment earlier. Didn't want to think you were ignored. Ryan, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. But of course, thank you guys for all joining episode 133 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering Saratoga Friday and all stakes on the Belmont Stakes Festival on Friday, June 6th. And until next time, everybody, subscribe for those tape shows, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.